fucking haters, they're coming for me. Last time I checked, this was the United States of fucking America.
Make another country! Nice!
Fucking boomers. Fuck y'all directly.
Oh, fuck man, bitch! Get fucked, man.
You are the most dangerous man I've ever met, and you're wacky. No, I'm not wacky, I'm a genius.
Hello, everyone.
You can't stop me. This one's going to be a heavy metal episode. Not only that, but episode 135 of Radio Free Innsmouth is going to be heavy metal of a particular stripe.
Сука, блядь!
That's right, everybody. It's going to be a Russian band, specifically a Soviet band, as in they were around before the fall of the Soviet Union. Soviet metal is interesting stuff, metal from the Eastern Bloc during the 70s and 80s. Obviously, you got Polish bands like Cat, are fairly well known nowadays. You got Pokelgep from Hungary and whatnot. Then you get into Russia proper. It was a bit of a haven for thrash in terms of bands like Iron Flow, Ospid, and Shah. But this band right here is older than those. In fact, it's almost kind of older than most thrash. We were talking about Aria, who are sort of like the original Soviet Union heavy metal band. They started way back in the early kind of mid-80s-ish. They've been around fucking forever. They're still around today. They've had a shitload of lineup changes. I think the only original member at this point is the guitarist and main songwriter, but there's other bands that are still in the dude too that have been there since like 1987. But to go back to the roots of Aria, you gotta go all the way back to their first album in 1985, Megalomania. Contrary to the prevailing conventional wisdom about the nature of authoritarian regimes,
Last time I checked, this was the United States of fucking America.
in regards to suppression of art and music, Aria actually had quite a lot of their lyrics, at least in the early phases of their career, drafted for them by poets paid by the Soviet government. So you get song titles like America is Behind.
We will bury you!
But mostly just a lot of lyrics about Russian history and whatnot, which works well for metal. My favorite song on this first album of theirs, however, is called The Volunteer. It starts off with a liberal application of what I would call the Ride the Tiger bass line.
우리 동아리 실세는 바로
I mean, the Eye of the Tiger bass line. Dun, 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 dun. Or it could be called the Ride the Tiger bass line if you think about it, since it shows up very often in Dio era Black Sabbath, as well as bands like Quartz and Dio's solo project. Post Dio Black Sabbath, there's stuff with Tony Martin. This bass line's all over the 80s when it comes to very epic atmospheric metal. And around this bass core you have some intertwining harmonized lead guitars. It all sounds kind of oddly sterile and cold in a very interesting sort of 80s metal way. But then the drums are very acoustic sounding, which is unusual. Normally you'd see a really gated snare with this kind of stuff. But that little dun-dun-dun-dun thing there is sort of like the guiding figure of the song. It shows up throughout it. This is a very progressive rock influenced song. It includes lengthy intros and outros of Vangelis style synth-wavy shit. And here we go. We have the actual metal happening. It's still coming in very slowly. We have the vocals are very majestic sounding. The guitars are simply mirroring that, you know, little bass riff there. This music is very vocal led. However, that doesn't mean it isn't complex. I've actually been jamming in more of a heavy metal band lately, and I'm starting to gain a newfound appreciation for very vocal-led music like this. You can see the entire thing back there was being directed by the vocals.
And this is the kind of crap that my trolls do to fuck with me because they're jealous of my dark powers.
You get into more instrumental sections of the song, and it starts to pick up in heaviness. There's that prog rock influence again. It's a all building towards a very emotional climax. This album, more so than any of their other ones, has that kind of progressive thing going on with a lot of keyboard usage. Very riffy stuff. And here's what I mean vocal-led. The entire song changes tone with the tone change in the vocals. I really like the variety of vocalizations utilized in Aria in general, and specifically on this song. It sounds very evil here, but then he's going to come back into more power metal territory. Nice little backing vocal there. And then we're back into that more foreboding sounding kind of transition riff with the keyboards behind it. I like the guitar tone on this too. Quite a bit dirtier, nastier compared to the earlier sections of the song, which were very clean and 80s metal sounding. Also the leads in this song. Most Aria songs are very solo heavy, but this one, it has solos in this, like, you know, like right here and like one you heard earlier, the but they're not really like show-offy solos in this song compared to their other stuff. It's more part of the music itself. Really good vocals here too. Build up. Backing vocalist comes in, sounding a bit calmer, almost kind of spoken word type stuff. And then you fade in the more aggressive power metal vocals. So vocal-led music can be very complex in its own way. It doesn't have to all be riff salad type stuff, which is something I've been learning having jammed with bands from other genres than just death metal and black metal, like what I usually write. Nice little atmospheric fade out there. And from there it goes into that aforementioned Vangelis-esque ambient keyboardy stuff. So that vocalist right there, he's kind of Aria's main weapon. His name is, wait, is this right? Valerie?
Thought I heard a girl's name. But that kid looks like a boy. But that kid looks like a boy. But that kid looks like a boy.
Whatever, we'll just call him Kipalov, since that's his last name and that's the name of his solo band. So this Kipalov character, great vocalist, one of the best, and I think even if you don't speak any Russian, like, I don't know any Russian outside of like a few slang terms and whatnot, you know, like "Привет, товарищ, блядь," you know, like that kind of shit. You can still jive with the feeling he puts into his vocals, and you can even sing along with it since his enunciation is so incredibly clear. Their second album, Whom Are You With?, isn't quite as progressive and wacky as their first one. It goes more into straight ahead, almost stadium-esque metal. Very stompy riffs on this song in particular, which is called Metal is Forged Here. This album utilizes a lot of negative space between kind of hits of guitar notes, which is not necessarily the norm for Aria. It's fucking good, but it's a bit of an outlier in their discography. But you gotta like this. It's really solid songwriting. Great bass playing too, of course. And that negative space helps lend some oomph and impact to Mr. Kipalov's vocals. This album took me a bit longer to get into than the other Aria ones, since it is so kind of like stomp along heavy metal compared to the semi-neoclassical nature of their other work. But the songwriting is solid enough, and it's, you know, it's complex enough for what it is, that it still remains interesting. I would compare it almost to the more metal moments of the third Crimson Glory album. But substantially more jut and a little bit less you know, like, you know what I'm saying, YouTubes.
You already know, tubes.
But after this album, like half the band leaves and forms another band called Master. No, not that Master. Incidentally, here's something you can spring on whatever annoying friend you have blaster-baiting about. Chuck Shoulder, father of death metal, baga, 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 baga. Master is such an old-school death metal band that they managed to get a Russian band named Master to put their name back into Cyrillic letters. That's how long the U.S. Master has been around. But anyways, you would think losing a big chunk of your band would kind of screw up your whole sound, but actually, this kind of starts my personal favorite era of Aria's career. When you get the album Hero of Asphalt, you know, you got like a big scary motorcycle dude, demon eye looking motherfucker on the cover. You know that's gonna be good shit, and guess what it is? This is the first Aria song I ever heard. It's called Serving the Forces of Evil. And I've seen a lot of people kind of call them the Russian Iron Maiden, in the same way that people say, oh, Manila Road, ain't that band that ripped off Angel Witch? There's more to it than that, guys. Although this album definitely has the stink of Power Slave all over it. Check this out. That's what I mean when this band is vocal-led, but it does so in an interesting manner. The guitars are following what the vocals do, and then they insert little interjections like man on it. So it's vocal-led, it's still complex though. Great chorus. Another one of those guitar interjections. Kind of like he's going back and forth with the instruments. Which really kind of catchy speed metal. Maybe power metal. That brand name has kind of been tainted by the Gravediggers and Rhapsodies of the world, but if there was such a thing as good power metal, it'd probably sound like Aria. Later on in that song, you get to see why I think just calling them the Russian Iron Maiden is a disservice. Two guitarists in this band now, Sergey and Vladimir, and they have different soloing styles. This one right here is melodic and fast. They have kind of a Tipton Downing dynamic in that the other solo style is very whammy bar and noise heavy, but it still manages to be very interesting. It's just more textural than melodic. And the way this solo ties back into my personal favorite section of the song is absolutely magnificent. This is really cool. This kind of weird, stretchy, whammy bar heavy noise thing, bringing us out of the dueling guitarist section. Interesting little bit of heavy metal songwriting there. And see, there we go. Fades back into more riffs. And this is where I say this isn't an Iron Maiden ripoff. This is uniquely Aria stuff. And it's super fucking Russian, dude. This part right here is what really got me to get into looking more into Aria's discography way back when I heard this song for the first time, probably like 15 years ago or something. Maybe not 15, more like 10. I don't know. Just, man, this guy's a good vocalist. Very expressive, utilizes a lot of different styles. There's lots of and oh, and like high notes and whatnot. Great stuff. Title track on this album is also excellent, showcasing more of how you can take a band that is clearly being led by vocals in a very complex and interesting direction. It doesn't have to just be like straight up verse chorus pop music. This song has a wide range of moods in it. This riff right here is very dark and foreboding, mean sounding, determined to cause some sort of violence. And this little transition section here is very spooky, so I dig that. but they're actually going to shift pretty seamlessly from this kind of minor key darkness into some fairly major key bright and shiny shit without really missing a beat. There we go, major key shift, man. Great back and forth between the guitars and the vocals. So this, you know, normally this would be the verse riff, right? I mean, that makes sense. It's driving. He's throwing a lot of lyrics at you. Seems versy. And then this here is the chorus. But that layering it with all that melody stuff, just these different complex guitar harmonies going on, keeps it from becoming too simple and formulaic. So overall, that's a great song, showing how you can take sort of like more kind of pop metal song conventions and still do interesting stuff with them. The album after this, Playing with Fire, might be my favorite Aria album. It's their last album of the 80s, and it's the last album we will be covering on this little segment here. Although the album after it is great, and there's like a shitload of Aria albums after that are worth listening to. We're getting into the 90s. Like, this band's been around a long fucking time. I don't want this episode to be another half-hour-long fiasco like that Immolation one, you know what I'm saying? But on Playing with Fire, they brought back in a lot of those kind of like progressive influences from their first album, such as dank, clean guitar intros, and I really like the tone on this, kind of watery, echoey, almost reminds me of the stuff you might hear on softer sections of Immortals at the Heart of Winter. This song is called What Have You Done With Your Dream, but rather than being very accusatory or very despondent, it's more uplifting, kind of exhorting the listener to really take charge of their life and start doing some great stuff, despite whatever, you know, the
Fucking haters.
might do to discourage you. Great clean guitar tone. And look at this, that Eye of the Tiger bass is back. But the guitar, rather than being those very icy harmonies, is a bit more delicate here. Just kind of strumming chords. They're going to start fading in more and more layers, even more progressive than their first album. There's those sharp harmonies. So we have a whole bunch of stuff going on here. The drums are obviously building up to something. So you could call this a through-composed song, you know? It's all just very well done and flowing. Crash! Nice little guitar noise feedback there. Guitars and vocals working in concert during this emotional moment. Love this song. And here comes maybe the chorus? Nice little tapping lick there, but for most bands, this would probably be the chorus. Fuck, check out those dang harmonies right there. However, if we get in a little bit of that action, we'll see that despite what the initial kind of portion of the song led you to believe, this isn't just a strict verse-chorus relationship. And in fact, that thing that you thought was a chorus, this bit right here, that's actually not the chorus. That's sort of like a weird little anticipatory pre-chorus type thing. Gotta love those harmonies. Here's the actual chorus. Can't go wrong with that, man. Great chorus here. A lot of different guitar sounds. You got clean tones, you got the more distorted kind of backing chords, working with his own kind of double-layered vocals. I like his evil laughs. So that song's great. But not only did they bring back some of that progressive rock influence, they also brought back some of the more stop-starty, stomp-along kind of heavy metal moments of their second album, but done in a much more polished manner. More of that great clean guitar work, of course. This song's called Let's Rock This World, but it's pretty subdued sounding for something with such a yarr metal kind of title. I'm not complaining though, I dig this song. It's probably my favorite on the album. And here's that stomp along, negative space heavy stuff from the second album. You can see what I mean when I say it's more polished sounding. It's less kind of ragged edged, a lot smoother, and it works with this kind of more progressive stuff they're doing. This kind of like building chorus part is great. He's like the Tom Araya of power metal. He manages to cram in all these very syllable intense words in a pretty speedy manner, but it's all still pretty clear. It's clear to my ears, and it's a foreign language, dude. I can sing along with this. Just, man, what a great vocalist. And so I think that's a good primer for Aria. If you're going to start with anything, maybe do Hero of Asphalt like I did. Or perhaps Playing with Fire is a good place to start, since I would say that's probably their best album out of their 80s stuff. But before we go too nuts, this episode right here, it's already pretty long. So I guess I'll see you around. Bye.
Terrore!